and Bernie and Fred for inviting me to come this week. And as your fourth choice, it's humbling. Thank you, Susan. Boy, Susan's done a great job on the piano. I'll tell you what, she does a super job, doesn't she? Y'all know Bernie Moore, don't you? Yeah. We were coming in Friday evening. And we're coming down, what's the name? Hamilton Street, is it? Coming down Hamilton Street, and there cops are there, and the lights are flashing. And where I was supposed to go was past where the policemen were. And he motioned me, he said, "You got to go that way." I rolled down my window and I said, "But I need to go that way." He said, "You got to go that way." I said, "But I'm going to Bernie Moore's house." He said, "Oh, come on in. Come on in." It's not what you know, it's who you know, folks. You know, Bernie and I went to Kentucky Christian College together, and we played on the basketball team. We were pathetic. No, Bernie was good, but the rest of us were bad. But you know, Bernie and I had one common thing that we were really good at, and that was our vertical jump. It ain't there anymore, is it, Bernie? It's good to be back at DRAPER. We've been here a few times. It's good to see Mike and to meet him and his wife Judy, and boy, he's having a great ministry here at this church. And we're glad for that. It's good to see Brother Bob Johnson, who was here for, I think Bob came over on the ark, I think. He had a great ministry here as well, didn't he? But we're glad that you're here for homecoming. Happy birthday, DRAPER Christian Church, number 90. Keep on keeping on, will you? I heard about this school teacher, this elementary school teacher. It was cold out, and she was trying to get the kids ready to go home, and she noticed that this one little kid was having a rough time getting his boots on. He just couldn't get his boots on. And so she went down and she helped him, and with her pushing and him pulling, she finally got those boots on that kid. And then the kid says, "Teacher, they're on the wrong feet." Well, she had as much trouble getting the boots off as she had putting them on. So she put them back on for the second time, and it wasn't any easier the second time. She gets them on, and he says, "Teacher, these aren't my boots." She didn't know whether to slap him or call his mother. And so she puts those boots on. She takes those boots off the second time. And he says, "They're my brother's boots. My mom told me to wear them." So she puts those boots on the third time. And then she said, "Honey, where's your mittens?" He said, "I put them in the toes of my boots." Did you ever have a day like that? Hey, this morning I want to ask you a question. Do we have the servant spirit? Do we have the servant spirit? Our scripture is Mark chapter 1, verses 14 and through 20. Would you read these verses with me? After John was put in prison, Jesus went into Galilee, proclaiming the good news of God. "The time has come," he said. "The kingdom of God is near. Repent and believe the good news." As Jesus walked beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and his brother Andrew casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. "Come, follow me," Jesus said, "and I will make you fishers of men." At once they left their nets and followed him. And when he had gone a little further, he saw James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John in a boat preparing their nets. Without delay, he called them, and they left their father Zebedee in the boat with the hired men and followed Jesus. Trevor Bentley is a physical trainer, and in his gym, his training gym, he put up a sign, and the sign said this: if you can talk, you can sing. If you can walk, you can dance. Anyone can juggle and ride a unicycle, including you. But you have to want to. You have to want to. I heard about this football game being played by rival teams, and the home team was being smeared. They were being smeared. It was 30-0 at halftime. The hometown fans got a little restless, and the second half started, and the people in the home stand started yelling, "Give the ball to Calhoun! Give the ball to Calhoun!" Well, the home team ran a play, but they lost valuable yardage. The running back was tackled behind the line of scrimmage. Again, the people said, "Give the ball to Calhoun! Give the ball to Calhoun!" They ran another play, and the quarterback was sacked behind the line of scrimmage. Again, the people said, "Give the ball to Calhoun! Give the ball to Calhoun!" About that time, a young player raised up from the pile of human bodies on the field, and he shouted back to the crowd, "Calhoun don't want the ball." See, Calhoun didn't want to. And you know, I am afraid that's true of some in the church today. They don't want to carry the ball of evangelism. They don't want to reach out and touch others because they're comfortable right where they are. I'm not sure that's true for Draper Church. Look at this crowd today. We need to hear the cry of the crowd in heaven, that great cloud of witnesses in the grandstands telling us, "Church, it's time to go. It's time to go. Time is running out. This is the 2-minute warning. It's time to go." We have an opportunity to make a difference in someone's life. And it would be a shame if that person is lost because we're just like Calhoun. We don't want the ball. Edmund Burke said, "The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing." Church, we need to get serious about the fact that lost people matter to God. There are many like Calhoun today, and they're saying, in effect, "I want to be on the team, but I don't want to sacrifice that much. Let somebody else run the ball." They want to be Christians, but not servant Christians, and what a mistake that is, because service is what it's all about. Now, in this scripture text that we all read just a few moments ago, Peter, Andrew, James, and John were approached by the Lord, and Jesus called them, and he called them for service. He called them for action, and his calling was not an easy thing. Because you look at the Greek word there in verse 17, that word that is translated follow, that Greek word carries a strong meaning word which means obedience like a soldier. It's unwavering commitment. It is trust. It is devotion. It is servanthood. "Follow me," Jesus said. And if we today are going to please God, we will want to do the will of God. We will want to have a sense of meaning and purpose and fulfillment in our lives. Then take the ball, folks. Take the ball and run with it. Become a serving Christian. Because think about it, that's the only kind there really is. We are called to be servants. If you have a pulse this morning, you have a purpose. And I hope your purpose is the Lord. Let me ask something. How are we doing? How are we doing? Are we responding to the call? Are we running with the ball? Are we giving ourselves? Can we honestly say this morning that we are servant Christians? Would you allow me this morning the time just real quickly to share three very special characteristics that are in the life of a servant Christian. Number one, a servant Christian is committed to serving God. We as Christians, we're not called to be dignitaries. We're not called to be aristocrats. We are called to be servants. We are God's servants. And we are tempted sometimes to think of ourselves as privileged people. And when we give in to that temptation and we begin to think of ourselves and we begin to think about our rights and our obligations and our privileges and our wants, we actually depart from the Spirit of Christ and we fail to be the Lord's church. As Christians, we are not called for privilege. We are called for service. We're not called to sit in high places. We are called to do hard works of service. We're not called to be convenient. We are called to be convicted. We are called to be committed. We're not called because we're good. We're called because God is good. We're not called to have the red carpet rolled out for us. We are called to roll up our sleeves and get busy with God's work of redeeming this broken world. Now, if every member of the church understood this, that we're called to be servants, we could turn this world right side up for God. If every member of the church understood this, I tell you, my friends, 90% of our problems would be solved. We wouldn't have any money problems. We wouldn't have any staffing problems. We wouldn't have any hurt feelings. We wouldn't have any jealousy. We wouldn't have any burnout. We wouldn't have any dropout. There'd be no petty selfishness in the church because the servant mindset is so very, very important. What did Mark say about Jesus in Mark 10? He said, even Jesus came not to be served, but to serve others and to give his life as a ransom for many. Some years ago, Stanley Jones was a missionary in India, and he found a Christian community that he called the ashram. Now, an ashram is a place of spiritual retreat. And in this ashram that Stanley Jones created, it was a place where converts to Christianity from Hinduism could come there to live, and they could learn about Christ, and they could learn about the Christian life. Well, one convert came to this community, and he was a Brahmin. Now, the Brahmins were the upper crust. They were the upper class of the society of India. They were the highest caste of the Hindu caste system. They were of the priesthood. Well, everyone in the ashram was expected to help with the chores, to mop the floors, to wash the dishes, to serve the meals, even to clean the bathhouses. Well, one day, this former Brahmin came to Stanley Jones and he announced that he could not possibly perform such menial chores. He said, these chores are beneath me. And Stanley Jones looked at him and he said, sir, there are no meaningful tasks in the Lord Jesus Christ. Everything we do for Christ is very, very important. And the former Brahmin looked at him and said, but Brother Jones, I'm converted, but just not that far. I wonder, could that be some of our problem today? We're converted, but not that far. Jesus said, as you have done it to one of the least of these, you have done it to me. When we have the kind of servant mindset, no job is menial, no task is beneath us. Because in everything that we do, we're serving the Lord Jesus Christ, and that makes it sacred. As Christians, we are committed to serving God. The second characteristic is that we are responsive to the needs of others. Friday night in our revival, I quoted that old hymn, "Others, Lord, yes, others. Let this my motto be, help me to live for others, that I might live like thee." Now, James 1:27, James says, true Christianity looks after orphans and widows in their distress. In 1 John chapter 3, John writes, if anyone has material possessions and sees his brother in need, but has no pity on him, how can the love of God be in him? Dear children, let us not love with words or tongue, but with actions and in truth. I believe that James and John were both telling us that our care for others is a very personal thing. Being involved in God's work has something to do with reaching out to other people. Real Christianity always addresses the needs of others. This church exists for those who are yet to come. You know, there are a lot of people in this world today who are struggling, and they are looking for something. They need a hug. They need a warm touch. They are starving for the love of the gospel. They may not know this right now, but that is their one and only need. Can we give it to them? I sure hope so. Can we be a church that will rise to the occasion? Can we reach out and give people Jesus? Can we serve like that? A servant Christian is responsive to the needs of others. And last but not least, a servant Christian is willing to pay the price. He's willing to pay the price. To have a successful journey through life, you must continuously pay a price. You know, my flesh today wants more ease than it used to want. My flesh wants me to be comfortable. My flesh wants me to relax and take it easy. You know, the devil wants me to be defeated. And the devil wants you to be defeated. He wants this church to be defeated. The world wants conformity from us today. The world wants us to be tolerant of sin. You know, you fail to reach your greatest potential when you fail to pay a price. As Christians, we should always be willing to pay a price. Calhoun don't want to ball. Calhoun wasn't willing to pay the price. John Maxwell in his leadership conferences says this, here's how you can always spot a winner. Number one, they're committed to excellence. Number two, they never settle for average. Number three, they pay attention to detail. And number four, they are consistent. How are we doing? Are we willing to pay the price? Are we willing to take the ball and run with it? Jesus said in Luke chapter 9, if any of you wants to be my follower, you must turn from your selfish ways, take up your cross daily, and follow me. And Jesus also said in Luke 12, when someone has been given much, much will be required in return. A follower of Christ pays the price. John D. Rockefeller said, I believe every right implies a responsibility, every opportunity has obligations, and every possession a duty. What's he saying? He's saying that excellence costs more than average. There's a price tag to everything that is worthwhile. Do you remember old coach John Wooden of the UCLA Bruins? You know, he was a deacon in one of our sister churches, the Christian Church in Westwood, California. John Wooden said this, all of life is preparation for the next step up. And when opportunity comes, it's too late to prepare. What was he saying? He was saying, you cannot make up tomorrow what you failed to pay for today. You can't give 150% tomorrow when you only gave 50% today. You can never make it up. It's gone. It's lost. That's how valuable time is. A servant Christian is committed to serving God. A servant Christian is responsive to the needs of others. And a servant Christian is willing and able to pay the price. The choice is ours. Will we take the ball? And will we run with it? Or will we be like Calhoun? Calhoun don't want the ball. Dan Clark wrote about his boyhood. He didn't grow up in a very wealthy family. In fact, they had so little that he was surprised when his dad said that he was going to take him to the circus when the circus came to town. Dan wrote, he said, man, we didn't have money to do things like that. We just didn't have it for that type of thing. But his dad had saved so he could take his son to the circus. And so when the circus came to town, they went. And Dan wrote in his book how that he remembers standing there in line with his dad waiting to buy the tickets to get into the circus. He said there was a family standing in front of them, a man and his wife, and 8 small children. He could tell by the way they were dressed that they were extremely poor. This was going to be the highlight of this kid's life. These kids were laughing. They were talking about seeing the lion tamers and the elephants and the clowns. These kids were a bunch of excited kids. They got up to the ticket counter, and the man said, I need 2 adult tickets and 8 children's tickets to see the circus. The person behind the counter responded with the price, and you could just see the shock that came over the man's face. His wife's lip began to quiver, and the man gulped, and he said, how much did you say that was going to be? And the person responded, and it was real obvious what was happening. This dad didn't have enough money to take his family to see the circus. Dan Clark wrote, what happened next was holy. He said, my dad took out that $20 bill from his pocket that he had saved, and he dropped it on the ground, and he tapped the man on his shoulder, and he picked up that 20, and he says, you must have dropped this. This must be yours. The man grabbed a hold of Dan's father's hand and thanked him so much. He said, you'll never know how much this means to my family. And then Dan and his dad turned around and walked back to their car. They didn't get to go to the circus that day. But Dan wrote, we didn't go without. He said, we received the blessing because my dad gave to others. As I close this morning, it's my prayer that Draper Christian Church is going to take the ball, and Draper Church is going to run with it, and that this church will be a bunch of servant Christians, and this church will be known as a serving church who is committed to serving God, committed to be responsive to the needs of others, and a church that is willing and able to pay the price. Trevor Bentley's sign said, if you can talk, you can sing. If you can walk, you can dance. Anyone can juggle and ride a unicycle, including you, but you have to want to. Church, do you want to take the ball and run with it for Jesus Christ? Mike?